S's are not different. They are not four different S's. They are just one S divided into four. Yeah, whatever you are discussing, there must be flow of idea. Your idea must connect from one essay to the other. So, and when you have done that, there is also wisdom demands that you give it to somebody to look at what you have possibly criticized, what you have written, and all that before submitting. And I believe that God just also favored me, possibly because I had a desire to do some kind of missionary work outside the shores of Nigeria. And I believe that it is that desire and prayer that God saw that the thing that I put together, it favored me to be among the very few that made it. So I think that's the much I can say. If you are able to articulate what is original, of course you'll be able to flow, and your ideas and possibly points will stand you out. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Godwin. So we are going to talk in depth about the 4 essays which you mentioned. But at this point, are you still on the call? Okay, so while he's trying to reconnect, I see Engineer UC has a question. Please, let's as he is talking or as the conversation is ongoing, please note down your questions, because definitely we'll give opportunity for questions. That is definitely in the agenda. Also, I would advise, please, as housekeeping, if you are not speaking, kindly mute your microphone so that there is no interference in the conversation. Thank you. All right, so while he's rejoining the call, we can entertain Engineer UC's question. Engineer UC, you have the floor. Hello.
Hello.
Yes. Good evening. Please introduce
yourself. Good evening to you. My name is Engineer UC. Hello, can you hear me?
Clearly. Please go ahead.
Please, in this scholarship of a thing, is there something like mentorship or guidelines? Somebody that will be guiding someone, mentoring someone until something is achieved, or just this Zoom meeting and everything is over? Because I don't think the information that we are going to give us here that will be enough. We'll be able to guide that person throughout the journey. So is there something like mentorship or guideline? Keep on guiding the person or mentoring the person until something is achieved. Thank you, sir.
Okay, that's a very good question. Okay, so we have different platforms where we provide these services, depending on the scholarship you are interested in. We have resource persons who actually have gone through that experience and are well versed and can help you and support you. I'm going to share a Telegram group where opportunities are shared and resources are also shared. Also, if you have gone through, you have started the process and you are actually working on it, yes, there is room for mentorship, and also somebody can reach out to you to point you in the right direction. So that opportunity exists, and definitely I'll share it in the chat, and also I'll give you guidelines on how to go about it. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, sir. That's all.
Thank you very much. Blessing Ijoma, please, you can ask your question.
Thank you very much and good evening. My question is there age bracket for the scholarship?
Okay, that's a good question. So there is, to the best of my knowledge, there is no age bracket. One thing that is that stands out when it comes to the UK education here is it's for everybody. I've heard stories of people who are gotten the admission, and even people who are please confirm you can hear me. Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right.
It breaks, but I can hear you now.
Okay, sorry about that. So people who are above 40, 50 still get the scholarship. That's but this Chevening scholarship. Every scholarship has its own requirements. Chevening particularly, they are focused on leadership and they are big on leadership. So if you can demonstrate leadership, then if you can demonstrate leadership and you can show them that you are the right profile that they are looking for, then you are good to go. So age is not a restriction for the Chevening scholarship. Maybe other scholarships may have a restriction based on age, but not the Chevening scholarship. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thank you so much.
God bless you. Any other question or just?
Hello. 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 Hello.
I think he was disconnected. Let's just hold on a little. Did you hear?
Hello.
Engineer, you.
I wanted to ask question.
Engineer, you.
Okay. Good evening once again. I have one more question, please. It just occurred to me. Hello, can you hear me? Hi, this network is too bad. But maybe you can type it if the answer I can't hear anyone. I'm I'm curious to know the minimal requirement to get this scholarship. The minimum requirements to get this scholarship. Hi, this network. Hello, can you hear me?
I think network logged him out.
What is
your voice is loud and clear. We can hear you very well. Just that our moderator is having some network challenges, which is trying to reconnect.
Yes,
yes. I'm with you. Please go ahead. Sorry about that.
Can anybody hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear you. Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, please. My question is, what's the minimum requirement for that is academic requirement for someone to attend in order to get this scholarship, like the first degree or something like that, BSc or HND. Okay. What is the minimum requirement for someone to get this scholarship? I want to know.
So typically it's a BSc. You need to have like your first degree. But I have heard of cases of people who had a HND degree and we're able to get the scholarship. That's the Chevening scholarship. So basically, the way the Chevening scholarship works is you apply for the scholarship and you also have to apply to 3 schools. And from those three schools, you will choose one. That's if you are successful, you will have to choose one. So the Chevening scholarship would give you the scholarship, or they'll give you the scholarship based on the strength of your application. And another condition is that you should have an unconditional offer from at least one of those 3 schools, which will be the school that you are going to attend. So for Chevening, I wouldn't say that they have the emphasis is on your degree, whether it's a HND or a BSc. That would be between you and the school, like you applying to the school, and if you can justify and go above and beyond to show that your HND degree is good enough for them, then you are fine. As long as you have an unconditional offer and you meet their requirements with the school in your application, then with Chevening, you're fine. If you can just upload your HND or your BSc, your unconditional admission letter, admission letter, then you're fine. Dr. Godwin, I see you are back.
Okay, no problem.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
All right, I hope that answers your question.
Yes, sir. I still need to know more, but maybe you will give us updates later. Maybe that link you talked about.
So we are going to touch on it as we continue the conversation. KK Amaka, I see that you have a question. Can you go ahead and ask your question?
Everyone.
Hello, good evening.
Please, for participants who are just joining, I noticed that this is the second edition of this scholarship. For those who are just joining,
that's right,
the second edition, how do we get the training for the first edition so that we can follow through?
Okay. So there is a recording on YouTube. I'm going to pull that up and share in the chat. So if you are not able to join the first one, then you can easily listen to it. And we are going to also touch on a few things that were discussed in the first webinar. Dr. Godwin, are you fine now? Can you speak?
Yes, I'm back now.
Oh, good. Sorry about that.
That was phone network.
For the benefit of those who are joining or who are not very familiar with Chevening scholarship, could you just walk us through the process, like from start to finish? What is it like? Because we're still going to touch on specifics like the core application and also the best practices or the tips, but just to walk us through from the application to the final email that they sent to you that you have been chosen for Chevening. What's it like? What's the process like? Did you hear my question? Dr. Godwin, can you hear me?
Oh, thank you very much. Or you can call a timeline. It begins with you can hear me too. Hello.
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can hear me. Okay. Okay. The process as follows. Actually, before you commence any application process, we normally opens in 3 months, between August and the end of the month. The first Chevening scholarship, the advertisement, so that you familiarize yourself, Chevening scholarship stand for. So the first thing is making application. That you wait for the processing of after submission of application and close of application process. A committee is set up that of November to December, and then the people that are successful or the shortlisted candidates will be sent back to the High Commission of every country where further short. Usually interview is between December and February. The committee will
Looks like we have lost Dr. Godwin again. Hello, sir, are you there? Okay, so let me continue from where he stopped. So he was talking about the application period. Can you hear me clearly? Please, someone should confirm they can hear me.
Yes.
Okay, is it echoing?
No.
Okay, good. So it's the application period opens and there's a call for application, which is basically the stage where we are right now. And when the application is open, usually for about 3 months, it stays open. And then you submit your application. This is the period where you have to have written your essays. You would have filled the forms online on the Chevening website, and you would have submitted. Then after this process, from the 1st of November, which is when it closes, there would be a period for review, and this review is usually done by people who have been part of the Chevening scholarship process before, or who have been beneficiaries. Many of them choose to volunteer, and then they review the work of people that have submitted, and they send like those who are shortlisted, people who their essay is qualitative enough, or they can prove like they can demonstrate that leadership that they are looking for. So what happens is these shortlisted people are notified sometime around March, and by this time they should have their unconditional offer, and they should have also gotten their reference letters from their referees. So they would be shortlisted for an interview. And if they do well in the interview and they pass the interview, that's like the last stage. Then sometime around September, or August, September, they would be notified that they have been chosen for Chevening. And this process is quite a rigorous process. Now, different scholarships have different processes or different requirements. Some scholarships would not require you to write so many essays, or some would even require to write more essays than the Chevening would require of you. And then they would now, instead of having an interview later on, they will just ask you everything. So the process is a bit more rigorous. So different scholarship bodies have their different requirements. But for Chevening would ask you to write 4 essays, and these 4 essays are just 500 words that you would write. So you need to be very good. You need to write your essays, and it has to be excellent, because that is like the first level. And if you clear that, then you must be able to convince them that you are the standard they are looking for. I talked earlier, or I gave this statistic earlier in the call, that in the year 2020, for Nigeria, only 47 people were chosen out of 7,000 people that applied. I think the year following, it was about 50 people chosen. So you can imagine a scholarship in somewhere like Nigeria. I'm sure not less than 10,000 people are applying for this year's Chevening scholarship, and every country has its own quota. So what are you going to write that will stand out, that will convince the reviewers that you are that person that they should choose? Why should they choose you above every other person? That's what you are writing. You're not writing to just complete the application. Let it be that you finished. That's why they give you enough time to prepare. They want you to produce something that would wow them. So now the ball is in your court. How are you going to go about it? Is there any question at this point before we go further? Because I would talk a little bit on each of the different scholarships or the different essays, and what is required of you, and what are the best practices for applying for this. Any questions so far? Sheikh Amaka, is that a new hand, or is it an old hand that you raised up before? Okay, at this point, I'd like to confirm if everyone can hear me. Please, if you can hear me, just chat in the, put something in the chat box, or just indicate so that I know that I'm being heard. Thank you.
We can hear you very well, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. So on that note, I would like to talk a little bit on the different essays. So there are 4 essays that you'll be required to write. One of them is on your networking skills. Another is on your leadership skills. Another will be on your future career plans. And finally, you'd have to defend why you are choosing a particular university. It will now be basically about your studies. So first one, on your networking skills. Now, remember I told you that there is a particular profile that they want. There's a particular profile they want. And they want to see how much of a leader you are. Now, the idea behind the Chevening scholarship is that the British government that is funding this scholarship. What they want to do is to train you and give you a world-class education that is of British standards, so that you will go back to your country and develop your country. So they want to ensure that it's the best of the best that they are training. They want to ensure that they are giving you all you need to go back and develop your country. So they feel like it's an easy way to develop a country. Instead of just pumping money in, they're also pumping human resources. They give you their best education, and then they send you out there to go and better your country. So they want to be sure that you have what it takes in terms of leadership and networking. And also, when you're writing your networking essay, you need to understand something, that Chevening is a brand. Those that were on this call earlier when Dr. Godwin was speaking, he talked about how now he has access to a network of so many people, thousands of people, such that if he is going to the Philippines today, he knows who he's going to call and the person will be there for him. If he's going to China today, he knows who he's going to call, because there is a group, there is a network, and almost every country on this planet is on their map. So that is a wide network. And Chevening wants to be sure that if they are giving you that scholarship, you are going to be building on that network. They don't just, that network did not grow in a day. It didn't just magically appear. It was the hard work of people. And over years, since in the 1980s, I think 1985 or 1986, when Chevening scholarship started. So this network has grown over time, and they want to be sure that if you come in, you are well connected, you have access to a wide network that you could leverage on to actually carry out developmental projects. Now, this Chevening scholarship has produced different leaders. We've had many ministers in Nigeria who are Chevening scholars. Off the top of my head, I think the current governor of, not current governor, it was a former governor of Ondo State. He is Fayemi. Fayemi is a Chevening scholar. Different people. The owner of Channels is a Chevening scholar. Many ministers have been Chevening scholars. Many people who are leading industries, captains of industry, are Chevening scholars. So if you become a Chevening scholar, imagine that's like you have access to these people. So it's actually a very qualitative group or set of people. And why I'm saying all this is so that you can understand how to write your networking essay. They want to be sure that you have what it takes to take advantage of your network, and you also have what it takes to build their network. So they are looking for your networking skills. So in this essay here, as a candidate, you are trying to justify your networking skills and show it to them. So if you're writing your essay, you should talk about projects that you have done, how you've been able to take advantage of a network that you have to bring about something good, to bring about something tangible, to bring about the betterment of society. So if you are someone who has been, I'm just giving an example now, you from young, you have always gravitated towards leadership positions, or maybe you are a course rep, and by virtue of being a course rep, you had access to lecturers, you had access to high-level officials in the university, and you took advantage of your proximity to power to carry about different projects. Maybe you found out that the library in your school is substandard and students don't have access to state-of-the-art materials or books to do their research or whatever. And because you are a class rep and you have that position, you are able to interact with the librarian, you're able to interact even with the vice chancellor, and to attract funding for the library to be properly stocked.
And because of you now, maybe 1,000 more books are in the library. And over the years, over 20,000 students have been able to use these library facilities, and it has actually led to people passing. The pass rate in the university has increased due to your singular action. Can you see how you have taken advantage of your network to bring about significant change in that area? So that's one example. Basically, since we are Christians on this call, I could give you an example with the parable of the sower. What they want to see is that you are that person who, or not the parable of the sower, the parable of the talents, that person who you have 5 talents, and you take advantage of everything within your means to grow that talent to 10 talents. They want to see people who are productive. They want to see people who are resourceful. And this will be a time for you to share your experiences. Now, one thing I also want to say is that your entire essays should flow like a story. Please, can you confirm that you are hearing me? I see Dr. Godwin is back on the call. You're welcome back, sir. So you want your essays to flow like a story. Dr. Godwin said earlier on that your essays, even though it's broken down into 4 essays, it is just one essay in different parts. So what does that mean? You want everything to read like a story. That's a good idea, because one of the ways you demonstrate your communication skills, even though they may not tell you expressly that they are looking to see your communication skills, is that you are able to tell a story of your life and your experiences in such a way that whoever is reviewing your work can appreciate you and actually see your leadership potential. Remember, if you're not able to communicate very well, sometimes you may do the best things, but nobody sees it, so it cannot scale. So I think now would be a good time to hear from you. Please chat in the chat box if anything I've been saying so far has made sense to you, or if you have any question, I would like to address it. Dr. Godwin, please, if you are able to, you could throw more light so that we have a more engaging conversation. It shouldn't just be me talking. I also want to hear from you, those who are listening and those who are on the call.
Okay.
And if you are here to... Okay, sir.
What?
Hello? Okay, so if you are here to, and you already have your essay and you would like us to review it, please feel free to mention it so that we could take a look at it and make it a bit more practical.
I wanted to agree completely with your explanation. I just want I when I was in an NGO job that I leveraged on that experience to write my essay. And what was the experience? I worked with an NGO who mobilized the Canadian that NGO to provide livelihood and energy saving mechanism for the rural community. So it was a project so I needed to tell my story, how I was able to coordinate that project, mobilizing resources from the NG office, and then from the chief to women group to men group to youth, religious organization, and even traditional organizations. So I was able to mobilize funds resources from the NGO to get the community and was able to execute the project. And what was the project? We were given to provide a livelihood to a community that was suffering some deforestation and suffering from overfishing. They were they were at the verge of losing their livelihood, which is fishing, and we were given to so that alternative was to provide of farming, fish farming, by way of constructing a fish pond and teaching them how they can fish, grow fish, and also really going to the waters because they were catching nothing. And then also they were also making use of local energy. They were destroying the forest to kind of dry their catch and also a source of energy. We needed to introduce a mechanism that will reduce fuel consumption, cutting down of trees by providing. And also we did some form of replanting of mangrove trees. So I was the one at the center harnessing the resources and then bringing together the different components in those communities. So I leveraged then the network that I had, how I was to achieve that objective, implemented and also handed over to the community and good reporting to Canadian International Development Agency. And so that was what I leveraged on. And I told them in terms of a career plan, a lecturer, I was at the vanguard of food security. And I told them that what I have gathered as a lecturer, as a teacher, I'm going to impact on the students. I'm going to advocate for food security. I did a picture of how that there is shortage of protein, there is shortage of food, and then there is a need for research gap to cover these gaps. And so after articulating everything, it was very clear that of protein in Nigeria. So there are different types of security. There is food security, and there are other forms of security or insecurity. So that was my own story. I articulated. That's why I talk about originality. When you did something practical, you have passed through a process. The next thing is like to talk about how to link, how to communicate. The next thing is to articulate the different components of that experience. And I tell you, it will go through. Another interesting thing that I want to point out here, you need to know the interest where the UK government, their interest in Nigeria, where is their interested in security in Nigeria, is interested in energy in Nigeria, is also interested in networking, leadership, or politics. So if you want to get their interest, you need to know where the government interested in security, whether it is food or secular security. I needed to capitalize on that, and we're able to get their attention. So you need to know what UK government is doing in Nigeria, where their interest is. And if you deploy that into your, so you need to know where their interest is, and you build something in that regard. So that was what I did, and though I was excited how that the thing came out positive, but I knew that I did some research, and I knew that I was talking what interested them, and it turned out to be that I was successful. If you told that way, originality, and by then linking it up with the interests of UK government in Nigeria, you are good to
All right.
even if you succeed the first time interaction, you will definitely succeed the second time. I want to say that this scholarship is not just for education, for further knowledge. It is the massive network and other opportunities that make people to go for this scholarship. I'm aware of many military officers, senior military of politicians and leadership, because they are simply looking for platform to excel and to get their career plan, of course, personal life fulfillment. And opens you, but
Hello, Dr. Godwin. Your network is quite shaky.
You introduce yourself as a Chevening scholar, you can be listed, not just the education, but some of people go for this. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. Even though your network was a bit shaky, but I was able to pick a number of key things that you mentioned, and I'd like to reiterate for the benefit of those who could not hear clearly. So he gave his story and talked about how he was able to write these essays, and he talked about how he worked with an NGO. And I just want to pick on that quickly. So that alone demonstrates that you understand there is only so much you can do as an individual, right? And you decide to leverage with organizations or individuals or groups that are working in the space that you're interested in, and you leverage and you combine your efforts to actually make a difference. So in engineering or basic physics, when we were being taught about simple machines, there was an equipment called the lever, and that's where leverage comes from. And the lever makes things kind of easy for you to multiply force, such that you apply force at one area, and at the other area, a greater force is actually dispensed, and you can lift weights that are bigger than you, something that you could not easily have used your hand to carry, because you use that simple machine, you put your effort, and then at the other side, it kind of lifts it up. So that's what leverage is all about. Making little efforts that yield great dividends. And those who have mastered the art of networking and how to use it to actually carry out projects are the kind of people they are looking for here. So he talked about how he is working in the space of food security and what he did with that community, that fishing community, and what it led to, how they were about losing their source of livelihood before the NGO engaged and there were outcomes. So basically, by sharing your experience and telling it in such a way that it's compelling, you stand a good chance. Now, it's not just enough to have your story. It's not just enough to actually make impact. You could make the most impact in the world. If you cannot communicate it properly, you may struggle to get the Chevening scholarship. Remember, I already said that the chances are like 1 in so many, like about very, very little chance, maybe 6% or even much lesser than that for you to get in. So you need to stand out. And the approach to writing your essays, please pay attention now, is what we call the STAR approach. STAR, STAR approach. So if you use the STAR approach, it's just a template that helps you to convey or communicate your impact better. So S stands for situation, T stands for task, A stands for action, and R stands for results. So in your essay, when you are explaining or when you are talking about anything you have done, first of all, give the situation. What was the context? What was the environment? What happened? What was happening there? Situation. What's the situation on ground? He talked about his experience and mentioned that they were about losing their source of livelihood. Do you know that if he had written that essay without mentioning this point, that they were about losing their source of livelihood, even if they brought 20 million tons of whatever, of food to that community, and they turned everybody to a millionaire overnight, do you know that that essay may not fly? Why? Because they did not understand what the situation was before they came. They could say, even though you give them 2 million each, who knows? Maybe they were already millionaires. Who knows? Maybe they were already doing so well. So your 2 million did not solve much of a problem. But if you explain that, oh, we came into this community, every person was impoverished. No person was earning above $1.6 a day. That is the threshold. I don't know about the figures, but the threshold for poverty, $1.6 a day. That is what they were living on. And then we came in and we carried out this and this and this and this. And at the end of the day, we have this. You have told a story. So first of all, you must define the situation. Your own may be a different case. Maybe what happened is you came into a community and you found out that there was a particular need they had. And due to that need, many people were not able to function properly. Maybe their need was electricity. They did not have electricity. And you came in, and what you found out was that a lot of their children were failing in schools because they did not have lights to read at night. And also because there was no electricity, it simply meant that some of the things that you could use, like maybe electric grinder to grind or blend, people had to do it manually, which took time, which took effort, and it took a toll on them. It could also mean that the people in that community were poor because they had to use human effort to process their food. Do you get? So you are painting a picture for whoever is reading it, such that even if it's somebody from China that has never been to Nigeria is reading that story, he can understand what you are saying. Remember, you are telling a story. Somebody that is reviewing that your article from Cote d'Ivoire or from Germany and does not understand what it means not to have light is reading your essay. He has seen that, okay, so this is what it means when there is no light in a community. These are the things that happen. These are the sequence of events. These are the chain of events that happen. They're able to connect because you have captured that in your essay, in the part that talks about situation. You have defined the situation. So when you have defined the situation, then you can now talk about your task. Take a cue from the Bible, Genesis chapter 1. How did it start? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And he says that, and the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. By saying that the situation had been painted, you already know that everywhere was void, everywhere was dark, everywhere was bleak when God came. That was the situation. Then what happened? Then God said, let there be light. That was the action, or that was that was the action that was taken. And what happened? Result, there was light. So I'm just trying to give you a little bit of context, how it's supposed to be. So for you now, your task would be, what did you do? What did you do? What did you do? So basically, you have talked about the background and how issues were and how the problem was. Then you now start talking about your intervention. So in the case of networking now, you can say, okay, I took advantage of this network, this individual that I met at so-so conference. And I remember that he works with so-so company. Maybe what you are trying to solve is hunger. Or let us give an example now with flood. There is current flooding in Nigeria, and it's a problem everywhere. But someone who is a leader is thinking of how we can make a difference in a community, how we can make a difference in a society. So let us use flood as a case study. There is flooding. That's the situation. So many houses are submerged. So many farmlands are submerged. Many people have been displaced. Millions of people are living in IDP camps. That one is established. That's the situation. So what will now be your task as an individual? So your task could be that, based on your understanding of the problem, you decided to step in. And because you are experienced in social media, you know how to use the social media, you decided to tell your story, and you captured a few videos that are very horrifying of the flood, and you put it on social media, and you decided to create a GoFundMe account, and you decided to start a campaign so that people from outside Nigeria and people from the global north could support, could send in monies so that you could buy relief materials. That is what you decided to do. And you decided to partner with an organization, maybe like Oxfam or any organization, any humanitarian, or like you're a first aider or Red Cross or whatever. You try to partner with them and work with them. And you led this campaign. And what happened? That is your task. The action is kind of related to tax. Dr. Godwin, you can come in here if I'm mixing it up. Your action too is, sometimes it depends on the scenario. Sometimes it may be a situation whereby you have something that you need to do, and then the action will be now what you did, and then you have your results. But for this case study we are using now, it could be that the action you took was mobilizing people, drawing attention of people from different countries, and what happened based on the advocacy project or campaign you started. What happened was that people started donating money. People started donating money to the tune of 5 million naira. And you took these monies and then you bought relief materials, and these relief materials were distributed to 20,000 people. You are able to, due to your action, you were able to affect the lives of 20,000 people. See how I'm calling numbers? That is exactly how you should be. You should be able to call numbers that would paint a proper picture, and don't tell lies, don't exaggerate, tell it as it is. You are able to touch the lives of 20,000 people. So the result is that 20,000 people were able to eat and did not die because of what you did. Another result could be, based on the efforts you have made as an individual working with an NGO, you are able to also mobilize, put pressure on government, put pressure on private institutions, and suddenly, because it's campaign season and everybody wants to jump on the bandwagon, you now have politicians also contributing money. So indirectly, you have started a domino effect or a ripple effect that has led to about 200 million naira in donations to flood victims. Is anybody understanding what I'm saying? Please put a reaction or a chat so that I can know that people are following. Are we following? Are we there? Okay, so I'm going to continue. So that is basically how it is. So at the end, you tell your results. These are the numbers. Communicate the outcomes. What are the things that came out of that action you took? So anybody that is reviewing it and it is talking about the networking, right? He looks at it, he looks at your article or your essay, and he sees how you are able to first of all, you attend networks. That's a good sign that you attend conferences. That's a good sign that you're someone who networks. Secondly, you saw a problem and you are able to activate your network. You are able to connect with NGOs and take advantage of their exposure and their understanding of these problems and also their capacity. You take advantage of it. These people are used to helping such victims, flood victims, people that have been internally displaced. You cannot do that. They can do that. But what you can do is make noise so that people can come on social media. You are able to take advantage of the strengths of others to work on a project that had an impact in the life of over 2 million people. And when they look at you, they say, okay, yes, this is the kind of person we want, because he was able to take advantage of his network to make a difference, a lasting difference. So that is basically for the networking essay. Another essay, please feel free to stop me because it's interactive. If you have a question, just jump in, or if you also have any contribution to make, please, you are free to do that. The second essay is basically about your leadership qualities. So how are you a leader? Someone is asking, does it mean that when one is not a networker via NGOs, the person should not be in the registration? So I'm going to tell you the truth. I'm not going to mince words. I told you from the start that it is very competitive. So there is no grounds for saying, okay, you don't network, or you don't you are not someone who networks, basically, that you may stand a chance. I don't think so. So what you can do now is to start developing it. Many people who got this Chevening scholarship, they did not get it on first attempt because it's quite competitive. I'm not going to tell you lies. So you can start developing it in your little capacity. Start developing it in your little capacity and work on it. It must not be that you are an extrovert. No. Introverts are also able to make a difference. Introverts are also able to make change. So you're not going to use that as a reason to disqualify yourself, but you can build your capacity in that regard. You can start now. And the interesting thing about it is that you don't have to do all the work yourself. You just need to align yourself properly and work and contribute in your own little way. Because if you have if you're working with an NGO, and that NGO, you're actively working, and that NGO is able to achieve great things because of the work you have done, you could also leverage on that because you are part of the process. Do you understand? You are part of the process. So you could also announce that as a win of yours. So that is that about your networking. Someone talked about church leadership. Does it have anything to do with church leadership? Church leadership could help. Church leadership could play a role, but I would say when they are reviewing, they would need something that actually translates beyond the church. It's a good thing that you show leadership in church and you make a difference. So when you say church leadership, what exactly do you mean? What have you been able to do? Is it that you are a parish pastor or a campus coordinator and you coordinated a good number of people? That's fantastic. But what they are looking at is the results. How is the results? How are you measuring that result or that impact that you have made? And what does it look like to woman leader, fantastic. What does that look like to the British government? You remember Dr. Godwin said something earlier on. He said that you also have to consider the UK's interest in Nigeria. So the UK is interested in developmental issues. The UK is interested in eradicating poverty. The UK is interested in increasing energy access in Nigeria. The UK is interested in literacy in Nigeria. That's education. The UK is interested in different areas, right? So if you can tie whatever you are doing in church to any of these areas, it could be that the church has a project. The church may have a project for education. Maybe you are working in lodges, for instance, and then you have an outreach, and the outreach leads to awareness on the importance of education. And because of that, so number of people now enroll their kids in school. That is an impact. That could be a church-led project. But if it is around our normal fellowship activities, I think you may need to have a little bit more than that to actually draw the attention of people. Remember, you're a storyteller, you have to communicate. Sometimes you could just say something like this woman leader now that you mentioned, and it's not enough to draw my attention. But by the time you start telling your story, how much impact you have made as a woman leader, and how it connects to this, and how it connects to that, and how it led to this, how it led to that, then I can be like, oh, wonderful. I never saw it in that light. So basically, it is your story, and make sure you are telling a beautiful story. Okay. Thank you very much. So leadership is quite similar, and leadership is all about your ability to make change. Now, one thing you would notice about the Chevening scholarship is that some of these essays is almost as if they're asking for the same thing, but you need to be careful to know the line to draw so that you are not repeating yourself. Please do not repeat yourself. Don't tell them, okay, as I use flood incidents now in networking, I'm now telling my essay in leadership, and I now tell the same story I told in networking and put it in leadership and talk about how my leadership was highlighted there. No, don't do that. Don't do that. If you have one story, I don't know, but our advice that you should have a track record that demonstrates over time what you have been able to do, such that in one story you tell one, you highlight one strength that they are looking for. In another story, you highlight another, and all these stories are linked, so to speak. All these stories are linked. So in networking, you could tell how you are able to draw different people together to achieve something. In leadership, you could tell how you are able to take initiative to make a difference in a community, in a society, or bring about the birth of something novel. That could be leadership. Leadership is basically about stepping into a gap and filling that gap, right? The length of the essay is just 500 words. So it is very, very tight. You need to condense information. You don't need to be verbose. Say something too lengthy so that your grammar will look big and your words will be plenty. No. Condense everything. Let every sentence be power-packed. Let every sentence communicate something, right? Such that if somebody looks at your work, it's quite difficult to strip it down even any further. That is how you should write. You should write in such a way that every word counts. I was reviewing somebody's essay recently, and I put in a section, why are you repeating this? You have mentioned it in the first paragraph. Why are you saying it again? Do you understand? So you should avoid that. Make a point only once. Don't repeat it. Don't repeat it. So that is very helpful. And that's why you need to write. You will not write your essay once. You need to write it and rewrite it and rewrite it. Do you understand? And also give people to go through it so that they could scrutinize and see some areas where there are gaps, where there are holes. Maybe there's something you did not point out. Maybe after writing your story, you didn't talk about how that impact was measured. You need all those things to be there. So that's basically it about leadership. I'm not going to go into details because I've already talked about the STAR approach, and this approach actually holds for all the different essays you are going to write. For future career plans, so Chevening wants to make sure that that the people they are training are people who are actually going to make a difference. They are not just giving you the scholarship. I used to say that scholarship is not a free gift or is not bonanza. No, it is for people who actually stand out, who are outstanding, and who actually are going to be leaders. So when you look today and you see that a president of a country, I think Philippines also, is a Chevening scholar, and they've had about 2 or 3 presidents that the British government have trained. So it shows you, it justifies the scholarship. It simply means that the people they are picking are people who have potential. So in this essay, you have the opportunity to tell the British government that, look, I have a plan. This is what I'm working towards. In the next 5 years, this is what I want to be. In the next 10 years, this is what I want to be. In the next 15 years, this is what I'm looking to be. And this is how I will get there. So basically, your future career plans, now you will talk about that, your area. You will talk about what you want to do. You have 2 essays: why you want to pursue your studies in the UK and your future career plans. So your future career plan gives you the opportunity to lay out your career. You say you want to go to the UK to study climate science. Why? Why climate science? Why climate science? Okay, now we choose to sponsor you to go to the UK to study climate science. What do you want to do with that degree? How would that degree feed into your long-term career plans? Beyond the program, what are you going to do next? So here you would want to section your work to talk about your short-term goals, your medium-term goals, and your long-term goals, right? So that is another sign that you're a leader. You are actually making plans, and you are going to follow through with those plans. You are making plans. That's what makes you stand out from others. Not everybody that makes plans, not everybody that is working as seriously to achieve their plans. So if you are doing that, you stand out. So as a climate scientist that you want to become, your short-term goal may be you want to become a climate scientist because you understand, you give a bit of a context, like a background, right, to the problem, which is situation. Climate change is rapidly devastating our world today. There is importance to gain more understanding on the current world or the present world and how it is rapidly changing and what this change would translate to in society, in the way we relate with one another. I am coming to study climate science so that I can become an expert, maybe that's in long term, so that I can become one of the foremost experts in West Africa as far as climate science is concerned. Now that's long-term goal. In short term, I want to finish this and work on projects in the northeastern part of Nigeria that is affected by droughts. Now, these droughts, we know that the drought has caused them loss of pasture, and it has led to violence because the herdsmen are now coming down to places like Benue State and eating up their farm produce, and it is leading to violence. So if you're able to capture the problem that you want to solve, you stand a good chance. If you're just talking without saying all these things, they cannot know. They just say, this is just another person that wants to come and study. But if you have painted the picture, they see the problem that you want to address. In the short term, you are going there to research to see how this climate change is causing about deforestation or desertification, so that you can create early warning system models that will inform the way these people migrate, these cattle headers migrate, and also help the government in planning so that they can checkmate this as a climate adaptation strategy. They are saying what you want to do. That is what you want to do in short term. In medium term, that is in 5 years, you see yourself working, excuse me, going to do a PhD. You see yourself going to do a PhD in climate science and also working with international organizations at the front lines of climate action to develop robust policies that govern regions, right? You are painting a picture for them so that they see where you want to be. Maybe by that time, after you finish your postgraduate, your PhD program, you want to work with organizations like UNFCCC, or you want to work with organizations like different organizations that are in that climate domain, so that you can work day to day on these problems, or maybe NASA, right? You have already shown that, okay, this is what I want to do. In the next 15 years time, I want to be advising governments. I want to take on an ambassadorial role on climate science to advise governments on their strategies and also map drafts, roadmaps on how they achieve their net zero targets. So in the short term, you've told them what you want to do. Medium term, you've told them what you want to do. Long term, you've told them what you want to do. That way, you communicate to them that you actually have plans. And if they invest their money in you, they are going to see in 15 years' time what it would benefit them or how it would make a difference in society, because that's the benefit to them. So you're able to justify that clearly and not ambiguously, and not just throwing around buzzwords, but actually having a plan and drafting it out. So that's basically what you need to do in your third essay. And in the fourth essay, which is the final essay, you have to explain to them why you want to pursue your studies in the UK. So this one is a bit relaxed. It's not focused on you, but focused on them. So now you're going to explain to them the reason why you chose the universities you chose. You know, you have to choose 3 universities. You have to justify why is it that you chose the University of Aberdeen to study so and so. Why is it you chose Oxford University to study so and so? Now, this is the point where you would now need to justify it. And one thing I've observed over time is that many people still throw around the common reasons. If you want to stand out, you need to be original. Dr. Godwin mentioned that earlier, originality. So what I expect somebody to say is that I want to go to University of Oxford because the university is a world-renowned university. The university ranks high in the world university rankings. It's the top 10 university in the world. It's the top 5 university in the UK, and blah, 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 blah. If I'm reading it, I will slip off because this is what I expect to read. But if I pick up your paper and I'm reading and it tells me that you have chosen to study climate science, MSc, in the University of Oxford because you have followed the works of Dr. Patel Raji, who is a renowned climate scientist and is on the advisory board of UNFCCC and has written so and so paper, blah, 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 on how climate change is affecting or how climate change is transforming the landscape in sub-Saharan Africa. Related to your work, remember what we talked about when we were talking about your career plan, related to your work. He has done this research, and this research has been cited over blah, 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 blah times. Because of that, you feel that such a lecturer would be a perfect mentor for you, and you would like to study under him. That is one of the reasons why you have chosen the University of Oxford. The University of Oxford is renowned for churning out world-leading research in the area of climate science. You begin to cite examples of journals, just briefly, you don't need to say too much, how it has ranked so and so in this area. You talk about how it is a Russell Group University. Russell Group universities are like Ivy League universities in the UK, universities that stand out and are known for the intensity and the rigor of their research. You call 2 or 3 more case studies of climate scientists that have passed through the University of Oxford and are doing great things in the world today. And you say there have been 3 Nobel Prize winning scholars from the University of Oxford in the area of chemistry or in the area of climate science. I would like to be the 4th. Tell me who will read that paper and will not be impressed. That person will see that, okay, you are not just throwing names because they call university, they say Oxford, they call Cambridge, they call Strathclyde and the rest of them. You just say just choose one. No, it shows that you are deliberate. Who are the faculty in those universities? What have they done? Who have they supervised? Maybe they may not have done great, they may not have done as great as I've said, but they have supervised the work of notable scientists as so and so and so and so. And I would love to study under them. If it's in Bible Palace, I want to study under Gamaliel because Apostle Paul passed through him. Who will not be impressed? Who will not be impressed? So you need to stand out in your essay and make it clear for them to see. So that is just one part of the essay. Then you also talk about why you chose the United Kingdom to study. Why is it that you came to UK? Talk a little bit about the culture. And here, like I said, you are free. You have the liberty to be a bit casual. So it could be that you are a big fan of the Premier League. You've watched matches, Arsenal, Man U, growing up, and you're like, oh, this place that is a melting pot of cultures and is has the Premier League as one of its biggest exports. You'd love to be in this society, and also when you have spare time to actually attend a match at Old Trafford, which has always been your dream. It's fine. It's fine. This is like casual. What is your reason? And if you have been able to show a high level of seriousness in your 3-4 essays, and in your first part of that essay, that last essay, you've talked about your main reason for choosing the university, then you have the opportunity to introduce some personality into your work, so that when somebody is reading your work, they know that it's not the work of a robot, but it's the work of a human being, somebody who actually is interested in culture. Or maybe you enjoy the arts and the cultures, and you know about all the different cultural heritages in UK, or the cinema houses and the rest, and you would like to be in a society where that integrates, that is actually very welcoming to different cultures. You could talk about that. You could talk about that. So with that, you are able to capture the attention of whoever is reading your work. Now, when you are writing your essay, always think this way. The person that is reviewing your essay would actually review as much as 50 essays, as much as 50. What would make the person remember your essay over the other 50 people that they have reviewed their work at a moment's notice? That's how you should write. So by the time you have written this way, you know that you have done, and you have actually scrutinized it over and over and over again. By the time you have done this, you should be able to submit something that is very, very qualitative. I don't want this meeting to go beyond 10 p.m. So at this point, I'm going to stop. If anyone that is still on the call has questions, please go ahead and ask your questions, and I'll be happy to answer. Would one write on different things in 4 or the same thing? And what is the length of the essay? I've answered this question. The length of the essay is 500 words. Would one write on different things? So here is where you would need to optimize, right? When I say optimize, remember it said it should read like a story. It should read like a story. So you don't want to write on things that are far opposed. Let it be like you are funneling everything. Everything you're saying is funneling to who you are, pointing them to one direction. Not that you talk about this one, you talk about that one. Today, you talk about how you want to help people to understand the importance of education. Tomorrow, you are saying, the next text, say, you are talking about something totally opposed. You could talk about two different things that are united, that are bound in one way or the other. Think of the SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals. Look at how they interact, how they are interwoven. So you can tell it from the perspective of the SDGs. You know that if you are working on energy access, that which is goal 7, you know that automatically is going to affect goal 1 and goal 2, which are no poverty and zero hunger and no poverty, basically. So if you are telling the story and you are using the rope of SDGs to tie it together in such a way that it flows, you're doing a good job. And anybody that is reviewing it will understand that you know what you are doing. Yes. Any more questions? Yes, I mentioned 4 essays, and I'm going to go over it again. The first essay is on networking skills. The second essay is on leadership skills. The third essay is on your future career plans. And the fourth essay is on the reason why you want to pursue your studies in the UK. All right. Thank you very much. Is there any other question or any other comment? Would like to wrap this up now. Dr. Godwin, I don't know if there's anything I missed out in my presentation that you would want to mention, because it is recorded, so people could also listen to it later on.
Okay, thank you very much, Brother Fanny. We just have a few minutes to go. What I want to, my contribution, why I allowed you to really emphasize on the essay writing is because the essay writing is the first task that you need to deliver on. The first assignment, you need to prove yourself. There are other things, and if you are really somebody that want to have a scholarship, you need to have, by now you should have basic preparations, like you have international passports, you have a functional email. If you don't have international passport, if your admissions, if your scholarship comes through, you will now start running header skelter to get a passport, Nigerian passport. Now that you are preparing to submit, submit ready, your transcript is required to supply your credentials to submit. Those are some of the side things that you need to do so that you will not be stranded, because passport can stop you from receiving the award or proceeding to study in the UK. And let me leave the aspect of essay writing, go to interview, a little about interview. Okay. Mine is more of a practical experience. I remember during the interview time, I spoke with every confidence, and I already studied some background of the UK. So I was prepared to answer any question. For example, I was asked what is common between UK and Nigeria. So I told them Nigeria look up to UK on many things. We look up to them educationally, look up to them security wise. They are our colonial master. And then companies, UK companies are in Nigeria, Shell, and some other companies, and then the Guinness, Unilever, British Airways. So, and then a number of questions. So I was very confident. They also expect some socialization, social aspect of their life. Because exchange of pleasantry and offer me some cup of water. They want to see networking. They want to see you blending, the ability to relate, and all that. These are little things that constitute part of the interview. So, and by the grace of God, all the questions they asked me, because I was seeing their reactions. I was seeing their reaction on their faces. And then they now asked me, what is my own question? I said, actually, I don't have a question. I want to ask you, when are you getting back to me? I'm sure that this scholarship is mine. I will have it. I remember I was, even when I left, I was asking myself, who gave you this boldness? I already answered their question. I know that I answered. So I asked them, when are you going to get back? And they told me, the panel told me, the leader of the panel told me I should expect reply from them early March or middle of March. So I came back with result. I came back sure that with assurance that God was going to help me. And at the time they promised, they sent me a mail congratulating me. And so you have to, like I talk about originality, you have to be bold, you have to take ownership. Every statement. Then they are also going to interview you based on what you have submitted to them. The essay that you wrote, you tell it to them verbally, you wrote it, and maybe you wrote it very well. And so you come back and tell us the story now verbally and what you told us. So these are the areas of questions where the questions come. And so those little things matter. And it will constitute what makes you different. What, because somebody may be shortlisted but may not be able to pass the interview stage. And so they want to see that person that wrote this thing. They want to confirm what they read. They want to confirm what you have proven or what you have. So let me stop here. I've also had some other scholarship, like the Fulbright Fellowship, the United States. I know I was shortlisted. I went to U.S. Embassy, but I was disqualified at that point because of one question. Not that I did not answer the question, but I didn't foresee that was a common answer that almost everybody was giving. And what was it? What are you going to do with your study? I said, when they did not even allow me to say some other things I want to say, because this is what you publish. So I regretted that I began with that, and that was what disqualified me. If I told them how I'm going to influence policy with it, how I'm going to translate it into physical results, I know that I would have scaled through. So I learned I learned the opposite of what should be. And so you need to take ownership of everything that we write in our essay when it comes to, but we're looking forward to people that will be shortlisted, will guide you better when you get the last
Definitely.
stage of the interview. That's right.
Definitely. So when you go through the process and if you get shortlisted, please do not hesitate to reach out and would support you on how and what you need to do to scale through the interview. So this is me trusting God that this webinar is going to be helpful to every person watching it. And if you are working on your essays, I would encourage you to put in effort to ensure that you have something really good to submit. The deadline is looming by 1st of November. You should have submitted your essays. So now is the time to tweak and tweak and tweak until you have your perfect 2,000 words that would win you the scholarship. So thank you very much for your audience. I'm going to put in the chat the group to our Telegram group where we post and share opportunities. So if you are not on that group, please try and join the group so that you would have access to information real time. Thank you so much for making it an evening with us. I also want to appreciate Dr. Godwin for making our time. It's not very easy to get people with your experience to come on and speak. And you've been with us for the better part of 2 hours. And I really appreciate that. Every other person who has also stayed on the call till this point, staying on the call till now, shows that you're interested. And that's actually the first step, the interest in something like this, the interest to stand out, and I salute you for that. And I hope that you translate this into action by actually working on your applications. And one thing about the Chevening scholarship is if you could write these essays, it kind of gives you a justification when you are writing other scholarship essays, because other scholarship essays ask for elements of what you have already communicated in your Chevening scholarship essay. So it's a very important one. You write it and you could also rework it for other scholarships. So thank you so much once again. And at this point, I would like to drop the mic and say a very good evening to each and every one of us. For now, it's bye. Thank you.